In this video, we'll talk about how to make a dot plot. Dot plots are particularly good for small data sets, and you have to have whole number data. So let's take a look at dot plot here. Now here I have two different columns of data. One is computer use in hours for all of my 500, for all the 500 of my sample from all states. Here's just the computer use in Indiana. If I do the computer use in hours for all of my states, notice I have that each dot is representing more than one row of data. Now if I stretch this out a little bit, that goes down some, but still each dot is representing multiple data values. Now obviously I have some extreme outliers that are clearly unreasonable. This is saying they use the computer 1,000 hours per week. There aren't even 1,000 hours in a week. And here's some other outliers that are clearly too high, 300, 160, and so forth. So you'd have to clean that up. But still, this data would be better represented by a histogram because there are just too many data values to make a dot plot practical. So let's go back and make a graph for just Indiana. So computer use, compute. All right. So here we have a dot plot for just Indiana. And here each dot just represents one particular data value, and it even tells you what row it's in. So if we click on this, for example, it'll highlight the row and highlight the dot, and that shows you exactly what row that dot in the graph is referring to. And we can clear it down here. Now I have some outliers here. This is a person who claims to use their computer 150 hours a week, which turns out to be about 21 per day. Here's 100 hours a week and 90. This is about 14 hours per day and 12 hours per day. Those two might be reasonable. I would say the 21 hours per day, unless they're counting the computers on while you're asleep or something. So let's just say we'll go with these two as possibly reasonable. Let's delete this one. So I'm going to delete this. And notice then I can refresh my graph and it will no longer include that value. Another thing you can do with a dot plot and any other quantitative graph is you can add some markers. So I can add the mean and the median as vertical lines here. And this is kind of helpful. Once again, I'll stretch this out. This tells you that here's the median is 12.5 hours per week, and the mean is 18.6 hours per week. Notice that since we have a graph that's extremely skewed to the right with the two high outliers, that the mean is greater than the median because it's not resistant to outliers. The median is resistant to outliers, but the mean is not. The median here would be a better measure of center because it represents the more typical use of the computer, whereas the mean is a little bit higher than the typical value because of these two high outliers. One more interesting feature that you can put on a dot plot or a histogram or other quantitative graph shown here. I'm going to take the markers off so we won't be too cluttered. And I'm going to add percent dividers. You can also do this with counts. What this does is it adds some sliders that allow you to measure percents of data within certain ranges. So let's say I want to know what percent of the data is 20 or more hours per week. So we have 35.7. That is, let's see if I slide this over, make sure 35.7 people use their computer 20 or more hours per week, and 64.3 use it less. And you can actually even divide this into thirds. So I can say, like, what is the lowest? Maybe 5% of usage. Okay, probably 7%. Okay, so we can say that about 90% of the people use their computer between, let's see, 4 and 30 hours per week. Okay, 85%. So we can divide this into sections and see what percent of the data is between various numbers. So this is another helpful feature that you can do on several of the quantitative graphs.